Kingdom Hearts 3. Well, I'm back. I wanted to make another video. It's been almost 2 years since my last one. But, you know, with a full-time job and a bunch of other responsibilities.
Oh, nice.
Oh, she's almost down. Nice.
Oh my god, oh.
I can't pump out a video as fast as some of these other YouTube channels out there. And in this fast-paced, middle of a fourth industrial revolution world where AI is coming to take all of our jobs, you gotta be quick. So I need an angle. So how about this? Discussion point that I've seen come up in a lot of online communities regarding Kingdom Hearts 3 since I finished it is whether somebody has the right to criticize the game if they haven't played every game in the series. Of course you don't like Kingdom Hearts 3, you just can't understand it, man. You haven't played Kingdom Hearts 0.82 Birth by Sleep, a fragmentary passage. Whether that's an actual valid point or just the last defense of a distraught community. Whether we should respect people with those beliefs or cast them aside like lepers. But before we start down that trail of thought, let's start with discussing something that, whether you've played all the games in the series or not, your opinion on which shouldn't have changed much. The combat. So the combat is 90% the same as Kingdom Hearts 2. It's still the same floaty, over-the-top, smash X to win, long animation-ridden, low player agency combat. But in comparison, Kingdom Hearts 2, which in my limited experience was the pinnacle of gameplay in the series, had the same core gameplay, but with one distinct advantage. More invented boss fights thrown into the mix. Let's take a look at a few. Marluxia hits you with a Doom counter at the beginning of the encounter. That Doom counter is tied to your player's level. You get hit that many times, game over. No amount of Kiragas or elixirs will save you. Luxord gives you a gambling themed fight. With him, the game repurposes your action command menu into a slot machine. And you can time your button presses well in order to get a free combo in on him. But you time your button presses incorrectly, and he smacks your boy ass. He also turns himself into a card and spawns a bunch of decoys. Hit the right one, you get to damage him. Hit the wrong one, he gets to damage you. Vexen drops a circle on the ground, and the longer you stand in it, the more a bar fills up. That bar reaches 100%, and then he spawns a Rage Mode sword to beat your boy ass. Larxene uses the multiform technique, and it's up to you to either beat them all up separately or smash them back together. Lexius has a power level gimmick which determines his damage output. How you play the fight and how you time your attacks will determine how much damage he does to you, and in turn how difficult the fight becomes. Demyx creates a number of water Kagebushins that you have to evaporate within a certain period of time, or you get Shinderu'd. Zexion transforms the arena multiple times, trapping you and your furry companions in books at one point. The game has yet another clever twist, including the action menu, in which you have to flip through the menu as if it were a book, and find yourself the appropriate command in order to release yourself. And that's just a select few of the boss fights. That's saying nothing about the dozens of different classes of nobodies you meet throughout the game, and the copious amounts of reaction commands that come with them, and how they all fit into little clans under their respective organizations or team members, and have abilities that mimic their commanders. There's just a massive amount of depth here in the enemy and boss fight encounters that has disappeared when it comes to Kingdom Hearts 3. And what has Kingdom Hearts 3 done to counteract this loss of depth? It added a few things of its own. These include, number 1, shot locks. Borrowed from Birth by Sleep, something that outside of a few fights that force you to use the air step sub ability, I never bothered with. Number 2, flow motion. Again, something as past me can explain better, I never bothered with. I've seen some people pull off some pretty slick things with it, but the difficulty of execution versus the reward doesn't make it worth perfecting over just mashing X.
I never use motion flow in combat. It's just so useless. I take hits trying to pull it off. But watch, when I finish this game and I watch somebody speedrun it, they'll use motion flow all the time. Watch.
Number 3, Keyblade transformations, which don't add any extra depth. at least as a strength user, which is what I played. It's just a different set of animations that play while you still continue to smash X. Number 4, attraction commands. These things are an objective detriment to the game as far as I'm concerned. The sheer amount of them that you are granted is obnoxious, and it hurts the flow and difficulty of combat as a result. This becomes a through line to my viewpoint over many, many aspects of this game. It becomes a consistent theme.
The fuck away from me. Get out of here. Too good, man. Too good. Give me that water.
Here you are, Philip.
Yet I hear the Disney defenders screaming out already. No one is forcing you to use them. Of course not. But you'd be an idiot not to. Yeah, if you want to play on Proud Mode or do a level 1 run or an attraction-less run, those options are there to challenge yourself. But those are the types of things you do to enhance replays of an already stellar game that you want to experience in a fresh and new way. Not try to salvage your first playthrough of a game that is putting you to sleep. Basic evolution shows that humans, among many other various species, are wired genetically to take the path of least resistance, and attractions are just that. You're instructing me to ignore tens of millions of years of evolution in order to play the game the way you feel it should be played, instead of the way the developers intended. How dare you? Now, I don't know about you guys, but I purchase entertainment to be entertained. And if I have to do half the work for the game developers in order to make their product enjoyable, I don't look at that as a positive. Oh, and number 5, complete removal of the post-game and super bosses, other than one boss and copy-paste gates that they hastily added in a post-release patch. But moving on. To sum up why the combat comes up short in Kingdom Hearts 3, when it's about 95% as in Kingdom Hearts 2, it's that while both games are all about smashing X, while flipping through the air, the team behind Kingdom Hearts 2 realized that they at least had to make earning the opportunity to do damage to the enemy interesting if they couldn't make doing the damage itself interesting, whereas the Kingdom Hearts 3 team never got that memo. There's also just a distinct lack of goals. Some of my fondest memories in the various JRPGs I played growing up was the leveling grind and the eventual triumph over troublesome bosses and super bosses. Enemies such as the weapons in Final Fantasy 7 and 8, Nemesis in 10, the Phantom, Kurtziza, or the goddamn Sephiroth in Kingdom Hearts 1, 2, and all the bosses I mentioned before in that previous section in Kingdom Hearts 2, those added dozens of hours of gameplay and a reason to grind out that next level or complete that optional challenge for a specific piece of gear.
Strawberry for that.
And now that I think about
what
it,
a waste of my goddamn
those
time.
games are the gateway games that led to me into what is now a 14-year WoW addiction. Thanks, Nomura. Thanks, Square. But it's more than that. Those challenges gave you a reason to stay in and explore the world. They made the game's worlds feel bigger than just you and your role or story within it. World building is an important aspect of every form of media, not just video games. It provides immersion. It's part of what makes things like Game of Thrones or Lord of the Rings feel so grand. The massive amount of work that those creators put into everything other than just the main plot line. And that doesn't exist in this game. But hey, you know what? You don't like the combat? That's only half the game. There's the other half to enjoy. Cutscenes. And I mean that. I'm not exaggerating. This isn't a joke. I mean that. Half the game is cutscenes. And I mean it. Don't believe me? Let's go look at the numbers. If you go on YouTube and search for Kingdom Hearts 3 movie compilations, you know, those people that splice together all the cutscenes of a game into one long movie format, this game clocks in at a staggering 10 plus hours of cutscenes. And my final play time for the game, when taking into consideration time spent AFK, is just over 25. It's insane. And not to mention, a significant chunk of that runtime was me screwing around with the gummy ship, which is completely skippable and adds nothing to the game. I seriously almost forgot to add or talk about it at all in this review. The Gummy Ship suffers from the same issue some people noted about a number of the activities or side bits in Red Dead Redemption 2, in that it does not weave into the other systems of the game or connect in any fashion to the combat or story, therefore making it completely skippable, unless of course you find customizing your Gummy Ship fun in and of itself. Which I can understand, but what I can't understand is somebody finding the cooking fun. And that comes from a guy that loves cooking in the real world. Or item hunting and synthesizing fun. Or the lucky emblems. I mean, those things really only matter if you're going for the ultimate weapon or the secret ending. And I'm aware fun is subjective, but really?
I don't give a fuck about the lucky emblems. This game doesn't deserve my time with that kind of bullshit.
Even Polygon has an article, albeit with a positive twist, letting you know not to worry about any of these things unless you really enjoy them in and of themselves, as the rewards are just not worth it. But what does that say when most of the RPG elements of this JRPG are non-starters? When you can go through the game on normal difficulty or even the hardest difficulty without a care in the world as to how you level or build your party? I know a lot of people are on this ride for the story, but for those of us who haven't kept up, you need to have engaging gameplay in order for us to hang around and care long enough to get back into the story. And they failed miserably. Let's be real here. If you can't think of a better way in 2019 to introduce game mechanics to people other than disgusting, screen-encompassing tutorial prompts, well, I've got a Zune I can sell you. I found it back in 2009 next to your game design philosophy. Let's go back in time even further so we can discuss this game's cinematography. Jokes aside, this is important because I do not have my degree in Kingdom Hearts lorology. I dropped out in the second trimester when my final report, which was worth 35% of my grade for the semester, was to explain why Old Man Xehanort was revived when Terra Xehanort's Nobody and Heartless were destroyed. Please feel free to explain and argue about this inconsistency in the Kingdom Hearts story in the comments below. And remember to like and subscribe, and follow me on Twitch. So while most people won't even understand why what I just said is a plot hole, it's important, as when even fan communities struggle to find answers to major plot points and inconsistencies, the average gamer has no chance. Here's some more for you. How does Terra's spirit exist in both the Lingering Will armor in Kingdom Hearts 2 Final Mix and in Terra Xehanort's Guardian? If the Guardian is Terra's Heartless, then where is his Nobody? I could buy that he has no Nobody because that would be his body that Xehanort occupied, but then you can't say that the Lingering Will is his Nobody either. And if Terra's Nobody is occupied by Xehanort's heart, then where is Master Xehanort's Nobody when he releases his heart to take over Terra's boy body? Yeah.
One day.
But wait, you're saying Xehanort doesn't have a Nobody because he willingly unlocked his heart, and therefore he did not create a Heartless because he did not fall to darkness. To which I say, that's debatable, because until the ass pull at the end of Kingdom Hearts 3 where everyone, except for the absolute being of darkness Vanitas, thank God, is revealed to be a good guy, Xehanort was an evil dude stealing another dude's body. That's pretty much murder? I mean, they're effectively the same. Either way, Terra has no way to exercise his will anymore. It doesn't get much more evil than that. Shit, in Harry Potter, murder is enough to render your soul in two, making you effectively immortal. But I don't buy that anyway, because Sora willingly unlocked his heart in a gesture of pure light to release Kairi in Kingdom Hearts 1 and created Roxas in the process. And somehow created Naminé when Kairi had no say whatsoever in what happened to her. Also, going back, if the Guardian is supposed to be Terra's Heartless, maybe not back but forward, the Terra's Heartless, the Guardian of Ansem, Seeker of Darkness, then how did Terra help Aqua take it down in her fight against Terranort at the end of Birth by Sleep? If Sora evaporated at the end of the game because he abused the power of Awakening, but he is in the World Ends With You world with Riku, does that mean that Riku also abused the power as well? This one will probably be answered in Kingdom Hearts 4, but I don't appreciate that there's sequel bait at the end of something that is supposed to be a bookend for the series, at least for now. I mean, we waited 14 years for this game. I really don't think it was too much to ask to get a satisfactory ending for our main trio. And that doesn't mean happy, just conclusive. For now. I mean, the fact that even I, a novice at this shit, can pick apart inconsistencies in the story speaks to just how shaky of a foundation Kingdom Hearts 3 stands upon.
Is that the guy from
But
the
when you
video
have
game?
time travel and the ability to resurrect people infinitely, either through a never-ending loop of nobodies becoming humans and humans becoming nobodies and heartless, and then also empty vessels in which a character's heart can occupy from at any point in the series and can come back using them, there really isn't any excuse for these kinds of issues in the story. And I'm not bringing these issues up to be mean. I'm not here to be some angry video game nerd picking apart things. I'm just bringing them up to show that not everybody who hates or dislikes Kingdom Hearts, specifically 3 in this instance, is a mouth-breathing moron. It really is confusing, overcomplicated, and collapsing under its own weight at this point. Them ending the Darkseeker saga and moving on is a really good move at this point. They need to unload as much baggage as they can from this saga and start over in a beautiful greenfield environment. But all of this is on another level. Those are questions for the die-hard Kingdom Hearts fans who spend time discussing fan theories and all the central hubs of Kingdom Hearts fandom. Let's take it down a tier. One of the better parts of the Kingdom Hearts story in 2 was that it was multi-tiered. It had the surface level story, which in 2 was just about stopping Big Bad Xemnas from spreading open Kingdom Hearts. To what end? Well, some say it was to stop the nobodies from creating replacement hearts for themselves. Others were saying Sora was trying to stop him from creating a false Kingdom Hearts to give himself a massive font of power to charge up from. And others say that he was already working towards his ultimate goal of creating the 7 Light Fighters and the 13 Dark Fighters to create the Keyblade. I just can't think straight anymore. Every time I think I'm gonna just make a quick point, I always look into it and research it and find out that every question, well, this wasn't even a question, has 3 or more possible answers. I think something is gonna be simple, and then I fact check myself, and then it's 3 different reasons. But it doesn't, again, I'm delving back into the second tier. Top tier is, Xemnas is a bad guy and you need to stop him. Reunite with Riku and Kairi, redeem Hollow Bastion, and stop all the Disney worlds from being invaded by darkness. Simple. It's told in an endearing way, with just enough melodrama to not dissolve into a pile of cringe. And that's all I wanted from Kingdom Hearts 3. But we didn't even get that. Instead, what we got was a soulless story that did not have any spark of creativity behind it.
Sora! They're gone. Kairi, Donald, Goofy, the King. Gone forever.
Nothing ever gets you down, huh, Sora?
The Disney worlds that you spend 4/5 of this game exploring have no life to them and are all self-contained little short stories that do not connect to one another or the grand story as a whole. You just are given some weak excuse to go explore them, which is to unlock Sora's power of awakening, which was introduced in Kingdom Hearts Dream Drop Distance. Spoiler! Sora has the power within him all along, further invalidating the importance of these Disney worlds. And I always prefer long-form, interconnected, episodic content over short stories any day. I'm more of a television show guy as opposed to a movie dude. It just allows for a slower burn and better character development over a longer term. And I will now use the literary masterpiece that is Dragon Ball to illustrate this point. I love Dragon Ball Super, don't get me wrong, but it's nowhere near the quality that Z was, because the sagas in Super are all these little floating islands in the multiverse of Z lore. One does not lead into the other the way that each saga does in Dragon Ball Z. And in this parallel, in case you're confused, Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2 are Z, and Kingdom Hearts 3 is Super. Let's begin at the beginning. Raditz kills Goku and alerts Vegeta to the Dragon Balls. Vegeta then comes and kills Piccolo, which causes the balls to go inert. This forces Gohan and Krillin to ride with a pantsless Bulma and Namek to wish back Piccolo and Kami, where they run into Frieza and his goons, and that ends the first third of the series. That's like 400 fucking episodes, right there in one continuous plot line. Raditz landing, Super Saiyan Goku. Thread. The same thing happens with the Android saga, starting with Trunks coming back as the inciting incident and ending with Gohan taking the mantle of protector of Earth from his father. Fantastique. Whereas in Super, each saga has a nice little bow at the end with no connection to the next. Whenever polled, fans tend to overwhelmingly say that Z is superior to Super. Besides some of the sketchy animation at the beginning of Super being one of the causes, I believe that the main reason is that the shorter stories make the sagas feel less epic and the characters feel less developed. And this same issue plagues Kingdom Hearts 3. But let's put a pin in this for later and move back to the Disney worlds. I'd like one reason why I should ever play the Frozen, Tangled, Pirates, or Hercules worlds again. They're just crappy retellings of the stories from the movies. I'd be better off dusting off my old VHS and giving it a go in the tube TV. I probably could find one somewhere around here in my creepy basement. The Frozen world in particular, as the shit show standout, was nothing more than a giant circle jerk surrounding Elsa and about how we needed to find her and get back to her after getting knocked away from her and then get back to her again at least, I think, 4 times. I would not be surprised if we were to find out later down the line that the Frozen world was shoehorned in by Disney directive and that Nomura wanted nothing to do with it, because that is exactly what it felt like.
Oh, I can't wait to meet Elsa. I bet she's the nicest, warmest, best person ever.
See her?
I think she might have gone up in that direction.
What? Okay, come on. I think we should probably go check on Elsa.
But if we don't get going, we'll never reach Elsa's palace.
Hey, that's Elsa.
Chad.
Who's
Stealing
that
our
guy?
Veronica again.
It could be somebody
Sora,
from Arendelle who came
It's
up
time
here.
to rise up.
That doesn't look like help to me.
You don't know what you're talking about. Maybe that's what she needed. Chotomate!
Are you looking for Elsa too? I wonder what happened. Maybe the Heartless? We should talk to her.
I've seen a lot of different clips of Frozen, but I've never actually watched Frozen from start to finish. Which means I won't understand half of the references in the story of this world. Because this game doesn't work if you haven't seen the movies that it's referencing.
So while I understand that that is more of a subjective take, what is not is that these world stories, especially the Tangled, Pirates, and Frozen ones, are indecipherable if you haven't seen the movies. So not only do you have to have played all 46 games in the Kingdom Hearts series to thoroughly understand what's happening in the interstitial bits between the worlds, but you also need to have seen these movies to understand the world themselves as well. Tangled, Frozen, and Pirates of the Caribbean 2 and 3. The homework is stacking up, folks. I would like somebody who hasn't seen Frozen to please explain to me who this guy is. Thankfully, at least Toy Story is its own individual narrative, separate from the movies. Monsters, Inc., while I almost wanted to add it to the list of required watching as well, as the world is a sequel to the original movie, the story is so simple and straightforward, as is the level design, that you could figure out what's going on and piece together the general plot line of the first movie without having seen it by a few of the comments of the protagonist. At least, I did, as somebody who never saw Monsters, Inc. or Monsters University. Big Hero 6 is my personal favorite of all the worlds, as it's more of a reimagining of the story of the movie, with the antagonist resuited as a malevolent, darkness corrupting nanomachine somehow. And I am always down when nanomachines are involved.
Make America great again!
What the hell are you talking about? No fair! Why can't we hurt it?
Nanomachines, son. They harden in response to physical trauma.
But that's enough. It's time to go over the idea of whether a person has the right to dislike Kingdom Hearts and feel validated in their belief of disliking it without having played all the other games in the series. First, Exhibit A. This minute review you just watched. I spent the last however long tearing into almost every aspect of this game, but note that I have not gone over any of the Kingdom Hearts-centric story bits. I told you we'd get back to that. Let's put a pin in this for later and move back to the Disney worlds. And outside of mentioning that you need to have fully played the previous games to understand what is fully happening in the interstitial cutscenes between the worlds and also the cutscenes at the end, I have purposely not given my opinion on any of them, and that is by design. And that's because I believe a lot of the discourse surrounding this game is focusing on the wrong bits. Is the story hard to understand if you haven't played all the games in the series? Yeah, of course it is. That's to be expected. Good luck understanding Season 8 of Game of Thrones if you haven't seen the previous 7. But there's plenty else wrong with this game than the convoluted story. The unimaginative combat, the muted RPG elements, the boring shot composition and cinematography, the complete afterthought of an endgame, the removal of Final Fantasy characters. What the fuck? I mean, seriously, who thought that getting rid of Final Fantasy characters and replacing them with boring-ass organization members was a good idea? That was a staple of the series. I understand that their thought process was most likely, we have enough OC Kingdom Hearts characters at this point that we don't need to fill in the roster with Final Fantasy characters, but that was one of the original selling points of the entire series, especially for me when I was like 12 years old, was that I got to play with Sephiroth, I got to play with Cloud, I got to play with Leon, Squall, and that's just missing from this game. That was a serious disappointment. That was probably the single most disappointing thing. This is off the cuff, this isn't on the script right now, but this was like, that was the single most disappointing thing about the entire game to me. I just had to throw that in real quick. A little side diatribe, I'm sorry. Anyway. And this is important because this all needs to be discussed separately from the ending, because that is the saving grace of this game for fans of the series. The ending is a non-stop 4-hour block of intravenous fan service. Saving old characters, reuniting with old friends, facing off with bosses after being teased with them all game. An entire game's worth of boss encounters are all jammed into one 4-hour long fuck fest. It leaves you feeling much better about the game than it has any right to. It's actually kind of genius in a way. It reminds me of what shitty Adam Sandler movies do.
I felt swindled at the end, and I'm sure other people did after seeing it, because the footage of the twins in the beginning, and then at the end they tack it on for like 10 more minutes after the credits.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, it's supposed to fill you with like this, like, oh, twins are great.
Yeah. To give you the illusion that the movie is about something, about twins and their relationships,
Yeah.
when the movie isn't about anything at all.
Or just to give you like some sort of warm-hearted feeling as you leave the theater,
Yeah.
like, and to make you forget about the whole movie that you just saw.
Yeah.
And shoving that in the beginning, shoving that in the end with no context or anything in relation to the film, just felt like shoving things in there until it's 90 minutes and throwing it out.
But it doesn't earn that ending. It's not even a matter of content as much as it is pacing. Kingdom Hearts 2 had a little bit more story meat to it, with the slow reveal of how Roxas came to be, and Riku's journey, and the real Ansem, and the digital Twilight Town, and the slow march to the world that never was. But it's not enough to make a significant difference. As I alluded to before, because of the shorter story arcs and the complete lack of a plot through line in them, the main story, for all intents and purposes, stops about 2 hours in and doesn't pick up again until 15 hours later. And that is heinous. To me, as a person who loves story in video games, and especially for this game in which a large portion of its appeal lies in its story. This narrative decision and the effect it had on me, just waiting for the story to pick back up again, and the creeping suspicion that it wouldn't until all the Disney stories were concluded, was a death knell for the game's quality. It'd be like if in Lord of the Rings, Frodo, Sam, Merry, and Pippin spent an hour before getting to Bree in a forest fucking around with a magical pot-smoking demigod that had no bearing on the rest of the story. That'd be crazy, right? And that's where this video kind of just ends, because I would never dare to say that the ending is bad. That is completely up to whoever is playing. I've discussed the rest of the game, and when it comes to the ending, other than what other people have said about pacing, I can't really add much more than that. Pacing is really what kills the ending for me personally. And even if you consider the last few hours of the game to be a masterpiece, all I ask of the people who have made it this far and have that belief is to ask yourself, if you truly believe a good 4 hours makes up for a preceding 20, and as I've spent this entire video explaining, are mediocre at best. Thanks for watching, people who made it this far. I've got a Twitch. You can follow me on twitch.tv/evangelism. I've got a Twitter, twitter.com/evangelism. I think I got the Instagram too, insta.co.gram/evangelism too. I think I got them all. Anyway, that's enough. I've been rambling. I'm gonna have to edit this end slate down substantially. All right, thanks.